And welcome. Welcome to another episode of Taboo Talk, featuring your very own pastor, me, Lady Charmaine Day. Today's show is guaranteed to be sensitive, intimate, natural conversations rarely talked about in the spiritual community. So get ready for your own spiritual consultation. Are you ready? Great, let's begin. How are you doing, beautiful? I know you are doing wonderful, marvelous, special, and precious because those are all adjectives I would use to describe you. You simply are well put together and so beautiful. God made a great thing when He made you, and you're so loving and kind and uplifting. You take the time to help other people, and God is working through you to help others. So let me give you a warm round of applause for being so kind, uplifting, and inspiring. Yay! Keep on doing what you're doing. You make God look great. I have a few announcements before beginning the show. Please download for free the Lady Charmaine Day app. This app allows you to watch Taboo Talk Virtual Show from the palm of your hands, listen to archive Taboo Talk radio shows, read my blog, call me with a prayer, and there's also a QR scanner and a tip calculator for your convenience. So please download the free Lady Charmaine Day app today, available for Android and iPhone. And when you have a chance, please visit www.ladycharmaineday.com. There you can visit my blog, learn more about this ministry, see Taboo Talk Virtual Show, see up-to-date audio, videos, pictures, and you can visit the store to make a purchase. It's through your purchases that I continue to do this ministry. And this ministry is done online through my website, through my app, through my social media. And so if you make a purchase, you allow me to continue to do my online ministry. And I just wanted to say thank you. And my last announcement is to thank you. Thank you so much to everyone in the audience for coming and watching Taboo Talk today. You're the reason why Taboo Talk is successful. And I want to thank you for your continued appreciation and faithfulness to watching. Thank you. Well, today we are in for a treat. We have a living legend among us. We have international blogger and influencer Lori Bean, aka Mama Bean, here today. And she's going to be sharing with us her words of wisdom. So let me not waste any time and get right to it and bring Lori on. Lori, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank
I,
you
I
so
hope I
much
hope I live up
for
to the
being
intro.
here. Oh, you definitely do already. Lori, thank you so much for coming and doing the show today and for agreeing to share with us your words of wisdom. Are you ready to share?
Sure. And I hope that they're useful and yeah, we can kind of talk about them as we go, if
Okay.
that's good. All right. Well, the first one that I have, because it's Women's History Month, and the one thing that I've just seen, as in my professional career and with friends is number one, don't be dependent financially. And I don't mean that you have to be earning an income. I know that women tend to do all kinds of different roles throughout their life, but even if you're not the one earning the income or aren't earning the primary income, just make sure you know how where your money is and how it's invested and be part of the process. I always like to say men don't have a special genetic predisposition on finance. And I think some women just turn it over a little too easily, and then they're surprised later on about what happened. So
Mm,
I just think it's be engaged, be involved, and be part of the decision making process. So that would be my first tip for Women's History Month.
excellent.
Um, yeah. The next one that I put was enjoy your shape now. I think that, I'm always perpetually fighting with my weight and stuff, but I don't want it to ever stop me from doing something. And that goes back to when my daughter was in preschool. I was an older mom apparently for most of the preschool moms, and they were doing a swim party. She went to the Y was where her preschool was, and no one would get in the pool because they're like, "Oh, I'm too this, too that," and they're like 25 years old, and I was like, "Just get in the pool. Like your kid doesn't care. Like you're missing out." And so I was really happy. I actually got all the moms like to shed their 15 reps. They all look great, and I think it's you've got to be like, don't wait. Don't wait to be at the perfect weight to do something. And I think as women, we tend to kind of forget that it is what it is, and just be there.
Oh, I have to add to that or that pearl to love and like you as you are right now. There's no other time better than today to start loving and liking you.
Exactly. And it's other people don't notice, and if they do notice, they're probably not people that you care about.
Amen.
So, and that kind of goes into the next one. Enjoy what you have. And I always, I put down that there's always somebody somewhere who would love the life that you have right now, exactly as it is. And I think that, culturally that we're all like looking for something better, and like you and I, like when we were in college, in the like the in high school in the 80s and early 90s, it was all about how to be the best and to get more and all the motivational speakers. And there was nobody telling you really to appreciate what you have.
Right.
And I think that when you do that, then more, just comes to you because and by more, it's not more money, more wealth, more this, bigger. That isn't. See, I told you Amazon was probably going to come. I don't know if you can hear the dogs in the background, but I think that that's really important. It's there's most of us just don't take or don't show a lot of gratitude for what we already have accomplished, and I think that's important.
Oh, Lori, can I say something?
That yeah,
I just have to say that that is so true. Be happy with the lot you got in life because this is yours. It's your own heaven on earth. Enjoy it. Make it yours. Make it special. Make it unique to you and happy for you because this is what God gave you. Be grateful. So many times we're not grateful in that time and then we want more and we get more and then we're not grateful for that. So just
yeah.
be grateful for what you have.
Well, and I always like I always remember like whenever I was in catechism, as a kid, and people would say their prayers, and I remember looking at this kid, I was like, it's God, not Santa, because it's like the wish list of everything they wanted, and I was like, I think you're supposed to be saying thank you for what I have. So like I
Amen.
I remember very consciously being aware of that as a kid, and when
Me
people
too.
yeah, and when people say pray for this because I want this, and I'm like, well,
Mm.
I don't think that's what it's supposed to be, but that's just my view. But I still remember that. It's not Santa Claus. So yeah. And then the next one I have is kind of a personal thing that really hit me, a few weeks ago. And I know that, we're friends on Facebook as well. And I put reach out to friends when you don't need anything just to connect, because one of the things that I was running into is my phone and would just blow up with like people venting. Like I have people that I hear from in my life that I don't want to say that they're not friends because they are friends, but they only reach out to me when they need something. It's never like, like you'll send me like, hey, thinking of you, blah, blah, blah. And that's kind of what friends do. I have, one friend who'll be like, hey, let's go to lunch, just to go. But I have like a lot of people that I think because I'm a good problem solver, the only time I ever hear from them is if they're venting or whatever. And I finally was just like, hey, I've had enough. Like, just
That's
because I'm
right.
not constantly complaining about life, like it doesn't mean that like the quarantine's been easy. I'm incredibly fortunate. I have a job that I can work remotely. My husband hasn't enjoyed teaching remotely. My kids haven't enjoyed going to school remotely. We've missed out on vacations and trips and things, but the fact that we also have gotten a lot of good things out of the quarantine, and there's been parts of it that we're going to miss as we transition back to normal. But it's just that the people that only show up if they need something, like, oh, Lori can fix it. And it was starting to get a little out of hand. So and my husband's like, what are you doing? I said, well, I've got like 3 text messages going because people need this or they need that. And I think that's fine. I'm happy to help people, but it would be nice if every once in a while somebody just said, hey, how you doing? It's stuff like, hey, while I got you, you're like, all right, whatever, hit me up now. So that would be that's been something that kind of hit me this summer. So, or this
That's
year,
deep.
actually. Yeah. Um, the other thing that I've really worked on this year is exercise daily for your mental health and well-being. I've always kind of looked at exercise as a way to lose weight or whatever. And I really mentally, I'm just better if I just even just a half hour doing something, whether it's riding a bike or going for a walk, or we have a treadmill, just something where I can just disconnect and just do it knowing that it's been much more mental for me than it was physical. So, I may never lose a pound, but I still need to make sure I'm moving every day. And I've got my Apple Watch that, yells at me. And my daughter, our whole family got him over quarantine. And my daughter, she goes, "Yeah, I took it off." She's actually, her actual comment was, "She's kind of a bossy bitch," because it'll be like, "Stand up, sit down." I'm like, "That's true." Like,
But
and I joke
that's
around.
a great pearl because people need to exercise for their mind, just to
Mhm.
keep their mind sharp. Not for your body, but for your spirit, for your mind. Exercise so that you can stay healthy all over mind, body, and spirit.
Well, and I had gone to this dementia program that was talking about brain health, and they
Mm.
said that's the biggest thing you can do for your brain is it's the circulation. And this is like as I'm sitting there like listening to this munching, and I hadn't moved, and like I'm like, oh yeah, this is probably not a good, you know. And I think with quarantine, like, oh yeah, I've got my dent in the couch where I've binge watched every show. And whenever my phone beeps to tell me to get up to move, I told my husband, I said, I'm thinking that she doesn't mean move to get something out of the refrigerator. But it's just, it was a good reminder and just the peace of mind that comes with, hey, I
Yeah,
took a half hour out of today and just did this for me. And I've
yeah,
been watching, I was doing like the classes, like Peloton classes and stuff like that. And honestly, my favorite thing is to just do it and watch like videos of comedians or, just TED Talks. I've been really into TED Talks lately. And I'd
nice.
rather do that than have somebody say, go faster. So it kind of with the concept of a treadmill. The sixth thing that I wrote down was life moves forward, so don't look back.
Mhm.
And it's a treadmill. And I always think that there's that whenever it's going to be, we're going to have more deliveries in the next hour probably than we will all day. Well, I think about my senior year. One of the guys that had graduated a few years ahead of us in college, he came back and he goes, "The worst part about being an adult is there's no end." He said, "There's no end of the semester. You don't get a grade." And it's like this perpetual movement. And I was like, that sounds awful. But, as awful as it is, it's kind of true. And you just have to keep plugging along. I think people get really hung up on what could have been and they don't really, I don't know, like it's you just got to keep going forward. And that's kind of tied in with the next thing, which I put find your swing. And one
Mm,
of my all-time favorite movies is The Legend of Bagger Vance. And I
yes.
just anytime I'm sad, I just watch that. And if it's on, there's very few movies I'll watch again and again, and this is one of them. And one of the quotes in there is inside each and every one of us is one true authentic swing, something we was born with, something that's ours and ours alone, something that can't be taught to you or learned, something that's got to be remembered. Over time, the world can rob us of that swing. It get buried inside of us under all the woulda, couldas, and shouldas. And some folks even forget what their swing is. And I think that
Mm,
that's really just a profound statement because it's true. Like, I think about like, hey, we met what we were, 18 years old.
yes.
And, you're all fresh face, you're going to take on the world, and then the world takes on you. And
Hello.
I think that people get buried in it like, hey, I should have done that. I could have done that. What if my life had been this? And it's like, go back, find your swing, find what you're good at. And just keep swinging is kind of, I think it's great, but I love that movie and highly, highly recommend it to anybody.
I
And
love that. That is so beautiful.
well, and I don't like just the whole concept of the movie that, it's actually based on a Hindu warrior. And so it's a god that comes to help a warrior fight a battle is what it's really originally based on. And to tell it through golf, I'm a horrible golfer. It is not my thing, but there's a lot of the calm, the peace, the serenity of it. And you're out in nature, a bad day golfing, it's like a bad day fishing is still better than a good day in the
Yeah.
office. So I think that's true. So number 8, I put laugh, especially when you screw up. I think people take themselves way too seriously. No one has ever accused me of that, ever. I don't think. But I think that's just a good one because I
Yeah.
think people get caught up in their junk more than anything. And then I have walk away from bad relationships, including friendships. Um, I've never understood, the people that stay in a relationship or like I'm gonna make him love me or whatever, or like the stalkery, like who wants to be with somebody that doesn't want to be with you? Like you shouldn't be begging people to hang out with you. Like the people that want to hang out with you will hang out with you and they'll appreciate you. And it's just I've just never got that. And I've had some friendships that after a while, I always say I clean the Rolodex out every January. People that just suck the life from you. Like, again, the people that are always, hey, they need something, they want something. And you're like, do you even know what my favorite color is? Like, no, like we've been friends, so that those people, I think you just need to purge them. But life's too short to be with people that don't want to be with you. And we've had some family situations where, kind of with family members, if it's hurting you and it's not and no one needs to put up with that. It's just you can walk away.
It's
Um, yeah. So then the next one, which I think actually helps you to get more friends, is learn to cook well. Uh,
yes.
it's I just think that's a treat for yourself. Even whenever I was single and lived by myself, I always made sure that I had the advantage. I kind of worked in restaurants and so forth throughout high school and college, and so I learned how to. And even in Vegas, I worked at a casino and became good friends with the executive chef. So I've had some good training on cooking by far, but it's fun. And I think that, my kids, we joke around because quarantine, I've got really gone next level, like with the cooking to a point,
Mm.
it's pretty funny. I'm making all kinds of stuff. And actually, I think what just showed up was I got a sous vide, so I can sous vide. Yeah, it's,
Ooh.
it's, it's gone a little nutty. But I told the kids, I said, you realize that you've been completely ruined. And they're like, oh yeah, I know. I was like, most people, you're getting gourmet food, but we've had fun. And I told my kids, my son's a senior this year. He has to learn how to make an omelet, fry an egg, learn how to cook a steak well, and how to roast a chicken, and
Yes.
how long to cook pasta. Because I said, if you can do all that stuff, you're good to go.
Amen.
And and he doesn't like eggs, and this might be inappropriate, but I told him, I said, yeah, but if you can make a girl at some like a nice omelet, say the next morning, I said that'll seal the deal for you, buddy. So we were joking around about that. And I was like, yeah, you need to learn to do that. So yeah, so that those are just things I think it's good, because I think that for whatever reason there are like generations out there that can't cook at all.
Yeah.
And I'd had a conversation with a friend of mine, and actually I did one of my blogs on it, and it was about how to cook an effing chicken. And because I was like, you don't know how to like roast a chicken? I was like, it's the easiest thing. You throw it in the oven, and we got into this debate about how long it would take to learn to cook. And I was like, it's not that hard. And he actually has like kicked it since we had it was kind of an argument about something else, but over the next year and a half, he's like an extraordinary cook. And he's like, it is kind of fun. So I think people are intimidated, and I'm like, YouTube, don't use the TikTok videos, because those don't ever show the whole recipe, as my daughter has learned. Like, I'm like, I think you need baking soda to make things fluffy, or whatever. But it's fun, and people like it, and they show up. And I know my mother-in-law's on the call, and I always say I think that's why she likes me, is it reduces, she doesn't have to cook as much. So and then with the next one I had, 11, was to breathe and to meditate. And I don't meditate enough, but I'm actually a pretty big advocate of it. And I usually do it on the couch back there. I spent a week at the Chopra Center with the whole Deepak Chopra team, and he's very mellow and calming. And I was joking around. I was like, I think he's stoned all the time. And one of the guys that works there goes, yeah, he kind of is. So but like that whole like how to like truly meditate and like get in the zone. I am a much better person when I do it, and I am not a good person when I don't. I think it teaches you patience and calm. And actually, right before this call, I got an invitation from one of our wholesalers for our team in our industry, and they're actually doing a meditation, like how to meditate and how it makes a better interaction with clients and so forth. So I signed us all up for it because I was
All
like, I don't care. You're all going. Like, and I just think it's worthwhile, and it's a good skill set because otherwise, we do have things in our office called dammit dolls that you just hit and go, damn it, damn it, damn it.
right.
it and I highly recommend those. So, yeah, those are kind of fun. But when you don't want to just get your anger out, I think just meditating and getting in that zone where you can shut everything out, and even if it's just 10 minutes, the Chopra Center said do an hour in the morning and an hour at night, and I don't know that a lot of people with busy lives can do that, but even just 10 minutes of blocking out things, it really does help.
Yes.
And then number 12, I had make a plan and then learn to roll with it when it doesn't work out. I'm a planner by nature, and by profession. And my husband, like, whenever we would go on family vacations, back in the before when we all traveled and did stuff, I'd always have an itinerary and let's do this and let's do that. And he's always like, you overschedule, or, I don't want to go with the schedule. And I'm like, okay, so one day he would have his. Like, okay, you can pick whatever we want to do on Thursday. And then it would be chaotic because on Thursday it would be like, I don't know, what do you want to do? And that's was like, just have a plan, like a guideline. And when the kids were really little, we would go back to the hotel and take a nap, because that just made us all better people. And or watch a movie. Like it wasn't like we were going. It was just like have a guideline. But then when it all goes to crap, like say your 50th birthday is January of 2020, and you decide to call that the year of Lori, and you're going to plan and go on all these trips, and then a global pandemic hits and it all gets shut down. I thought that was kind of funny and ironic, like not that, 500,000 people died, but in the US or in, all the people around the world, but I still look at it as, the best laid plans get cast aside. And we talked about that on your last show but I think to have like a general idea, have a philosophy, have something that you're directed to, but also to, more importantly, be willing to change it. I think people get set in stone and then they get upset like, hey, this, I always joke around, this was not in the brochure of Lori's future fabulous life. Like when things go on, because I feel like, you graduate from high school and you do everything right, and you're supposed to have this fabulous, amazing life. And, for this, and if you do this and that, blah, blah, blah. And then it
Mm,
doesn't work like that. Like,
hello.
yeah, recessions hit, illnesses come, marriages aren't what you thought, and kids don't turn out, and yeah, exactly. Like, sometimes there are detours, but I think if you can roll with it, and then just kind of start from there, start fresh. So that would be my thought. um
Lori, let me stop you right there
okay.
and say that to be able to roll with the punches, to roll when things happen that you did not expect, but you keep on going, is a skill that is so vital to your life. So take that pearl, eat that pearl, go. It was a good one. And I'm
Well,
just going to give the audience a chance to ask any questions, or do you have any comments? Okay. Well, you can keep on going, Lori. Oh,
okay. Oh,
Jose,
wait. Oh, that's my
Randy,
mother-in-law.
go ahead.
Hi, I have just one question for Lori, and I'd like to ask her, who's your favorite mother-in-law?
It would be you. It would be you.
No,
10 times over. It is
no,
you.
no, I just thought this was the perfect time to say what a blessing that Lori Bean has been in my life. And she always tells me, I only say that because I was a vessel for her grandchildren. And that is true to a little point, that's true, but she has been a blessing in my life. She's been my biggest supporter. She's caused me to do things I would never have thought of doing without her input and her pushing me.
Oh,
And I love her dearly.
oh,
Aw. This
And I
is
just wanted to
recorded
share
too,
that.
right?
yes.
Aw, thank you. Now I'm
I
crying.
just
Thanks.
wanted to
Thanks.
say that.
Aw. Well,
I
Oh,
thank you.
just
I love you too. You know that. She's, everybody goes, oh, mother-in-law, and she's actually a crap ton of fun.
nice.
So she really is. And she's been a great influence with my kids. And, my kids have been able to, she took care of them when they were little. So we never had to do daycare. If we did preschool, it was just to help them interact. But, I always joke around, my kids never cried, whenever I would go off to work, because they're like, we're going to grandma's. And with my daughter, I said, all the other moms talk about how sad their kids are when they go to work. And I said, could you just like maybe make them like pinch them or something? So she taught my daughter to go, goodbye, mommy, like that at the door. And yeah, because they couldn't get out of the car fast enough. And like I would go to pick them up, like, okay, I've got to get home. And they're like 5 more minutes. So she's awesome. So
Nice.
I'm very, very lucky. Hit it out of the park on that one. I always
Excellent.
tell my husband it's why we'll never get divorced, because I wouldn't want to lose her. So, which is a little true, but he's pretty cool too. So that helped. Um, and so just kind of moving forward. On 13, I have friends that are different from you. So different ages, different races, different interests. I joke that I live in a bubble, but I think I have a pretty diverse group of friends, and I think all ages. They always say, like, if you're a Gen Xer, make sure you have a millennial or a zennial to mentor you. And it helps, like, with technology, staying up to date on things, seeing the world. I always say I love working with teenagers and young people in their 20s, just in general, because they have such an optimistic outlook. They all think they're cynical, but I was like, you're not nearly as cynical as older people are. And I think having older friends, I have some friends that are good friends that are in their 70s. I say my mother-in-law is is my very best friend, and I think that you get their insight and view on the world. And I do know, just from talking to some of my older friends, the quarantine, everybody talks about, oh, it's damaging kids. Most kids are fine with this. Some kids are struggling, but I think a lot of older adults are having, because they've kind of been, cast to the side, like, oh, the only people that are dying are old people. Well, can you imagine? You're like, wait a minute, that's me. Like, no one cares. And, they've been, inside versus, those of us that have been working, at least we have some interaction, and they've really been isolated.
Yeah.
And, I've just seen people age so dramatically that are older versus, the kids look at it, this is a blip in their life. Yeah, they, my kids have missed out on homecoming and, but those aren't life shattering events. I think as you get older, you really, appreciate the how finite time is. And that is a year lost that you don't get back. You don't get to tack it on at the end. So that would just be my thought. But I think just having wide ranges, I think with all of the racial turmoil, we have in the United States, I'm glad that I have friends of color that, can point things out to me that I wouldn't know in my bubble of white privilege. And just to have a real conversation with, and I say with, not at, because if you have true friends, it's going to be like, hey, this is my perception, this is what I think, and it allows you to really see the world in a lot of different ways. So I think that's important. So
Oh, Lori, that is so true. And it's vital to have a mix of friends, a mix of people all ages, all races, all kinds, so that you can expand your knowledge base, and also so that you can be articulate in what you're saying to others about helping them. When
Mhm.
you know so many different people, it gives you the opportunity to have so many different ways to help.
Right, and I think you get to see different experiences. Like I've been shopping, with my friends that are not white, and I've seen security guards follow them in stores,
Yes.
and that's something that you can't communicate, and sometimes they don't even notice it. And I'm like, oh my God, get out! We got to get out of here. Or to go out to lunch, and the waiter or waitress will always address me first, and it's that subtle stuff that people don't, unless you have a wide range of friends, you may not see it. And it should be integrated enough that I don't need you to tell me and point it out. Like, hey, did you see what happened? Like, of course I saw what happened. Like, this isn't
Right.
normal. Like one of the young guys that works for me, when we were looking at office space, he was 25 years old at the time, and it's my business, my company, and the landlord would only talk to him, and my realtor was a man, and he kept referring him back to me because I was a decision maker. And so later, like, we had liked the space, and he and I had a conversation, and I said, well, did you notice anything else about the building? He said, yeah, how the landlord wouldn't even talk to you. And I said, yeah. I said, so that means if we have air conditioning problems, I'm just going to be a whiny bitch. If the lock doesn't work, it'll be, oh, she doesn't understand how these things work. And I said, so that means if we go in that space, you're going to have to handle all that communication. I said,
Mm.
because they're not going to take me seriously. And he wouldn't have seen that. Like, he had just come out of college and been like killed with political correctness. I mean, to honest, like he said, he goes, I'm 25, it's not all my fault, kind of thing. And I was able to see it from his perspective because I get, he's carrying the burden of things that he hasn't even lived long enough to commit, most of the atrocities that, but it was that he just was unaware that that happened. He thought people were overplaying it. And I said, it's that subtle misogyny. And I think that when you have a wide range of friends, you see it. You see how, as you get older, you're not treated the same way.
It's
People talk down to you, and they don't take you as seriously. And I just think you're a better person for not having everybody look like you. If everybody reads the same books, watches the same news channel, looks just like you, that's not good. And I've had on Facebook, people that, I grew up in a town that was 99% white, and people would post stuff on racial injustice that, all lives matter, is a good thing. And I was like, well, you should probably talk to some of your friends of color and see what they think. And I'm like, oh, look, you don't have any. Like that could be the problem. And my one friend, she goes, yeah, to my credit, there aren't a lot of people here, and that's a good perspective. Like, how do you know if you don't know anybody?
none.
So I think that that's good for everybody to have that knowledge of, not to excuse behavior, but you have to see where it comes from, and but it should just be that it doesn't. I don't want to say it doesn't matter, because it does matter. Like, and everybody's got a story, and I think it's important that we're just open to seeing that. And you don't get that unless you really get to know people for real. Not I say, oh, this is my token friend that, and like that's like Phil from shipping, and you talk to him at the Christmas party for 10 minutes. Like, that's not a friend. So I don't know, like that's kind of my thought. The next one I think is really important. It's never have a job. Because I think if you treat something like a job, my dad, whenever I came out of college and accepted a job I didn't really like, and my dad said, well, they wouldn't call it work and they wouldn't pay you if it was that much fun. And I said, yeah, but even when I waited tables, like I looked at it as, I had a lot of hustle. And, I figured out how to do it well. And, I could have a grown adult, at that time, who was somebody who was 25, and there I am at 16, and I'm making twice as much money as they are off of tips, because I figured out how to do it. So I always treated everything like, hey, this matters. It matters. It's kind of like have a mission, not a job. What I do now, I absolutely love, and I would do it for free. I actually do it for free a lot. I do a lot of volunteer work within my industry. But I think it doesn't matter, if you're, starting out and you're a receptionist or whatever. I mean, do the best that you can, and treat it like it matters. I remember we were at the grocery store, and the kid that bagged the groceries did an extraordinary job. And I said something to him, and he just looked at me, and the cashier's like, tell our manager because it matters. Like he took some time and he made sure everything wasn't really heavy versus half the kids at work, they just throw a bunch of crap in and then you're home, the bag rips and you're like, ah, crap. And I swear if one more person puts canned foods in with my bananas, I'm gonna lose it. Like I'm gonna go Karen at the grocery store and have a moment. Cause I'm like, but like this kid, he just was very thoughtful. And I looked at him, I said, you're gonna be really successful in life. And he just looked at me and I said, because you care, like that what you do is impacting me and thank you. So, and then I give him a big tip because
Aw.
that also helps too. And I still remember one of the baggers was like, oh, we're not allowed to accept tips. I said, yeah, sweetie, like everybody else does, just to let you know. Like you're the only one following the rule. Take the 5. But like I just think that you can see a lot about people when they're in the crappiest of jobs doing the best work, because not every, like I feel like in society, and I think we learned hopefully with the quarantine, but I'm sure we'll forget, um, the lowest level jobs are some of the most important. And I say lowest level because that's how we've deemed them. We don't pay people well that do these things, but yet they're vital. So every job matters. And if you're in that job, treat it like it matters too. Because I just think that's important. So never have a job, have a mission. Also, don't be afraid to apologize or admit when you're wrong. And I don't think my husband heard that one. So we always joke, like if I go, oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong. He's like, hang on, I need it on video. And I was like, I think I admit it, but like even with my kids, whenever I've just screwed something up or I've lost it with them because sometimes you're just tired and crabby and you need to be able to just apologize. And I think that's important. And I think it's important as a leader, in my business, to go, I'm really sorry, hey, I made a mistake. And then the next one I put is sing loudly in the car. I love to sing. I don't think people use their voices enough.
I
The
love
more,
that.
yeah, the more you sing, the better you get. And I've had some, people applaud at stoplights. They can't see you, but, have fun. Nobody can really question you. Okay. The next one I had is ask questions when you don't understand. I don't think people do that. And, I'm a fast talker just by nature. And with clients, like I want them to ask questions. If I'm at the doctor and they say something, I'm like, hang on, I don't understand. Why is that? And generally speaking, people who are good at what they do are happy to explain. Like, oh, this is why we do it that way. And you're like, oh, okay. Um, you know, even something as silly as going back to the grocery store. When I was pregnant with my daughter, I was craving Nutella like you couldn't even imagine. Like all I wanted was some Nutella and I couldn't find it anywhere. And I put in at the grocery and made a request. So I did talk to the grocery manager and she said, oh, it's because the person, it used to be hard to find anyhow. The West Coast distributor had lost the contract and they were expanding and going with a bigger, so there was like this 6-month window that you could not get Nutella on the West Coast.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. Now I'm not mad because I thought they weren't answering anything. Like if you're this pregnant lady, you're like, I just want my Nutella. But something that simple, or if you're diagnosed with something, ask questions like, well, how does this affect? Or if they change medications, well, why is this one better? What does this do? And again, most people don't mind having that conversation. I think if you're questioning because you don't believe them, that's a different story. But to question for clarification, no one's ever gonna, they shouldn't get upset. And if they are, I would question who you're talking to. Then 18, I put drop a good F-bomb if you need to. And my mother-in-law's kind of like, you do that a little too much. But I think a nice old big F-bomb appropriately placed sometimes, because I'm nice all the time. So I
Yes,
think,
shocking.
yeah, and you're just like, no, I'm not nice right now, and it definitely gets attention. My kids, they had a swear jar one summer, and I just put $100 in, and I was like, well, there we go. I said, I think I'm covered for 90 days. Um, but I think it's a beautiful word to purge. So I think that's important. Let's see. For 19, I put down plant something. I'm a huge gardener. I think that we just did we have a Vegas roots garden in Las Vegas, and we just put in an herb garden for a civil rights activist that we have in town. And I think that like I'm always joking, like I'm amazed at how little people know about how things grow.
Yeah.
And growing it up in a rural community, like I'm like, yes, it takes time, like, you have to plant the seed, be patient, harvest it. And I think it everything with gardening to me is really reflective of life in general. Like my kids, you have kids, you don't know how they're going to turn out. A seed is a seed, and you can't make an onion be a tomato. Like it's just you plant it, and different things impact it, conditions and environment, and you can love a plant to death, literally. So I think that it's really, it grows at its own pace. I can plant a packet of seeds and half of them will sprout, in 2 weeks, and maybe some will sprout later and some will never sprout. And I think it's just people, it all, you got to have the patience, and you got to take care of it, and maintain it. And I think it's a good lesson. So I always get nervous when people go, oh, I'm always killing my house plants. And I'm like, you clearly have no patience. Like, how do you not check on them? Like I don't get it. Like, okay, why would you? Well, and I joke around in our gardening group all the time because some people are just, they're just idiots. And you're like, and I sit there, I go, oh my God, like these should not be allowed to garden. And then I'm like, oh my God, they're parents. Like, like if you can't grow a tomato plant because it's too much time and energy, I'm like, what are you gonna do with the child? And so I always question that. And there's a lot of information out there. Read a book, people. Well, and that goes to the next one. Take a class or attend a lecture in something random. I have one of my dear friends, Lynn. I remember I called her up and I said, "Hey, you want to take belly dancing classes with me?" And we ended up, and then we did that, and then we did tap classes. And she says, "You're the friend that always calls me to do something odd," but she's also my friend I know I can reach out to who will do it with me.
Nice.
Um, and I think that whether we're fortunate, New York, you've got so much going on. And Vegas, we've got UNLV, and they have a visiting lecture series, and in CSN that's here. And like I've heard astronomers speak, I've heard scientists, I've heard I do a lot of like the biology lectures and so forth. And I think it's worth it to just go and learn a little bit. I took a creative writing class. I did a sales class early on in my career, and I still use a lot of the techniques from it because, like, why wouldn't you want to keep learning? And I always question people. I have a client who's in her 80s and she still does community college classes, and I love that because I hate when people go, "Oh, I'm done." Like, how can you be done? Like, there's so much more to learn. I love the fact that my mother-in-law, like with cooking or something, like she's always trying something new, like a new hobby, or she had never really quilted before, and now she's quilting, up a storm. And I don't think it's ever too late that you can't learn something new. My friend that learned how to cook, he was 50 years old and he literally could not cook before. And now, he's making all kinds of stuff. And I think that's important. So, and then the last one that I have is give yourself grace. Um,
Mm.
just give yourself a break, especially after this year. One of our good friends from college had posted like about the quarantine. She posted a really funny meme. And I said, so you didn't lose 30, train for a marathon, learn a second language, and meditate religiously, every day for 30, because no one did that. And I look at all these people like, oh, I'm a better. And I'm like, really? Because there are things that I appreciate for the quarantine, but I think most of us just barely got through it. And and it's going to happen. And like I said, it's not going to be the fabulous brochure of life. So just give yourself a little bit of credit. I think to just and grace is the best word I could think. It happens, life happens, go on. So
Grace.
that's all I had.
Hey, that was beautiful. I think all women who hear these pearls of wisdom will be more knowledgeable, more savvy, and better off because they heard you. Thank you so much, Lori. That was excellent.
Well, thank you. I love coming on. This is fun. I'm glad that people care what I think. So
Of course, you're an influencer, an international blogger. We love you.
there we go. I'm the next Kim Kardashian, just like an older, lumpier version.
You're so funny. Lori, where can people find you? Can you give us your URLs, please?
Sure. And I'm not blogging as much as I have been because as my kids got older, I felt like it was a little disrespectful to them. But Mrs. Bean's blog, mrsbeansblog.blogspot.com, I think is what it is. Isn't that
Yeah.
it? I can't even access it on my work computer because they block blogs now. So, but yeah, and if you Google Mama Bean's World too, that'll pop it up. So.
Okay. And do you have any final thoughts or words you would like to share with the audience before we close?
I think that one of the things that has surprised me is, I post happy stuff on, Facebook most of the time, and in my blogs I think are kind of funny. Is that I think a lot of people compare, and we've had friends that were like hashtag relationship goals. Like with me and my husband, it'll be right after we just had like a fight about something stupid, or those passive aggressive fights that you have when you're married for a long time. And I don't know, I think that with social media, um, and people being locked in and they're so zoned in on it, know that people just post all the good stuff and that great. I think these are good tips, but everybody's got 21 tips that they could give someone. And I think when people start to compare themselves to what people present on social media, it's not all smooth sailing. And I think that's why everybody kind of kept reaching out to me, because it's like, oh well, nothing bugs her. It's like, it does. So just don't be jealous of other people. Like if that makes, or people that are posting fabulous trips and stuff, like that could have been a trip of a lifetime. It could have been a disaster too.
Right.
You never know. Like so I think just look at yourself, look inward, and you're responsible for your own happy, and I think it's good to share happiness with others, but don't let that define you. I have friends that I thought had everything all together because they were thin, or they looked great. And then you find out, wow, that is not what I thought, So I think it's turning inward, being grateful for what you have, and then enjoying other people's successes. Like I'm happy when my friends are doing well, but don't let social media. You got to really connect with people. You got to talk to them, and I think that that's the important thing.
I love
So.
it, Lori. And Lori, I just want to give the audience that's here with us an opportunity to say their final thoughts on Jennifer, Granny. Is there anything you would like to say before we close? Okay. All right. Well, you knocked them dead. It was awesome.
You're the best. I love talking with you. You're just a light. So I appreciate you having me.
Thank you so much, Lori. And we have come to the end of this episode. This show was done because you, this watcher of Taboo Talk, are so precious, giving, and special. Lori came on to share her pearls of wisdom with you because you deserve it. And I pray that you were blessed by her and that you continue to watch this show. See, what's great about this show is that you can rewind and rewind and rewind until you get all the lessons down to memory. So rewind and rewind till you take this to memory, because everything she shared is vital and true. And continue to see God's face in all that you do, and a wonderful life will occur for you. Taboo Talk featuring me, your very own pastor, Lady Charmaine Day. I will continue to bring people like Lori on the show to help guide you, uplift you, inspire you, and take you to the next level, because you are so special and deserve nothing less than the very best. Continue to do what you're doing, and I will continue to do what I'm doing, which is show up with a word in season on time. Please show Lori your support by going and visiting her blog. It's beautiful, it has great knowledge, it has her same funky, nice, intelligent, quirky, wonderful way to speak in words. It's a great blog. Check it out. Well, until next time, take care of yourselves. Stay special. Goodbye.